If you're using the Blue Yeti microphone here, you may have seen my video about how to get this thing set up to record the best possible audio. But what happens when you get it in post? What can we do to make it sound even better? My name's Jason Yudlowski. I'm a DaVinci Resolve audio guru, and I'm going to show you how to edit audio from the Blue Yeti here and make it sound awesome in your videos. So let's jump into it. Now, I'm going to assume that you've already recorded your audio using whatever program you'd like. In my case, I'm using DaVinci Resolve. We're going to do the editing here in DaVinci Resolve because you can get the free version if you don't have it already. You can download it. It's free. You're going to be able to do everything I'm going to show you in this video. The tips and the techniques that I'm going to use in this video and show you how I would work with the audio from this microphone are going to work in any one of those audio editing programs. So you don't have to use DaVinci Resolve. I recommend it because I'm a DaVinci Resolve audio guy. Love me some DaVinci Resolve, but these tips and techniques will work in any audio program. Let's jump on the computer and get editing. I'm here in DaVinci Resolve, and now if you don't have any kind of editing software yet for either video or audio or both, DaVinci Resolve is the way to go. It's free. You can get the free version. Everything I'm going to show you here, with the exception of one thing, can be done in the free version, but that one thing is just like an extra bonus thing that's going to make your job a little bit easier when you're editing audio. It's not necessary for the edits that we're going to be doing here today to make the Blue Yeti sound awesome. All of the concepts that we're going to talk about are going to be the same regardless of the program that you're using. Audio edits are audio edits, and the way you kind of go through the process is going to be the same for any program that you're working in. It's really like the process we're going to be talking about, the things that you want to do like EQ and dynamics, but you're going to be able to do that in pretty much any audio editing program that you've got. So keep that in mind. You don't have to be in Resolve, but I'm going to show you how to do it in Resolve. And if you got a different program, apply the same concepts and the same things in the program that you're working in. So the first step in the process is obviously bring your footage and your audio into your editing program. If you're only working with audio, you don't need to sync it up, which we're going to do here first. But if you're working with your video and your audio, we need to sync that up. In DaVinci Resolve here, I'm in the Edit tab, and I have my video as well as my recorded audio in a bin, and Resolve makes it really easy to sync this up. I'm just going to right-click anywhere in this bin, Auto Sync Audio. We're going to get this little window right here. I'm going to choose Waveform, press Sync. Resolve is going to do its thing, and boom, just like that, our audio is synced up with our video. Now, if you want to double check it, you can select your video clip, right-click, come on down to Clip Attributes right here. And in our Clip Attributes, you go to the Audio tab, and right here under Source Channel, we have linked Channel 1. That's how we know that our good audio from the Blue Yeti here is linked up with our video clip. Now, you do have your embedded audio that was recorded on my camera in this case. That is always there, and you can select it if you wanted to, but we want the linked Channel 1 audio. Now, I've set it up as a mono clip right here because with dialogue, typically you want to use a mono track or a mono clip. So that's what we're going to use in this case. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now, I do have a timeline already created here in Resolve, but if you didn't, you could just right-click Timelines, Create New Timeline. Now, before we drop in my clip here with my good audio that we're going to edit, I want to make sure my track here is a mono track. So I'm going to select my track, right-click on it, and I can come down to Change Track Type 2 and choose Mono. So now we're in a mono track. So now I can just drag my clip down in the timeline. And I do have a bunch of dead space in here because I didn't start the Blue Yeti right away. So I'm going to come up to about here and make a cut by using my keyboard shortcuts here. But if you need to make a cut, you can use the blade tool really quick and easy. Then you can just select it and hit your delete key if you need to do that. So the first part of the process here for working with our audio is going to be to set our audio levels. Now, in the Edit tab here in Resolve, we've got our mixer, and we're going to want to watch our meters and make sure our audio, our dialogue in this case, is around -10 dB. Typically, that's where I recommend setting your dialogue, around -10 dB. Now, it's going to go a little bit above it and a little bit below it, but we want it to be in that range of -10 dB. To change the levels or the volume of our audio clip, we can come on our clip, and there's this white line here called the gain line. We can click, hold, and drag it up and down to raise or lower the dB level or the volume. Or we can select our clip, open your inspector right here, and you've got your volume right here, which is going to do the exact same thing. So I like doing it on the clip just because it's easier and I have more screen to work with by not having the inspector open. So I'm actually just going to reset this to 0. I can just come and drag it back down. We're going to put this at 0. If you use your Shift key, it's going to allow you to be a little more precise with your numbers while you're dragging that line up and down. So a little bonus tip there for you. So we're going to play through the clip.
I'm going to watch my levels over here, and I'm going to make my clip either quieter or louder so that it's around that minus 10 dB.
If you're using the Blue Yeti microphone here, you may have seen my video about how to get this thing set up to record the best possible audio. But what happens when you get it in?
All right, so that's pretty good. I'm a little bit over in spots. I'm a little bit under too, but in general, it's around that minus 10 dB. Now we're going to make it a little more consistent as far as our fluctuating levels there in a little bit. But for now, I think that's a good spot. The important thing is you don't want to be getting too close to the top of our meters here. We don't want to peak. You want to make sure you've got plenty of headroom there. So I think that's a good place to start. Now we're going to jump over into the Fairlight tab here, because as an audio guru here in DaVinci Resolve, I love me some Fairlight. And Fairlight is the audio tab in DaVinci Resolve. You've got different tabs where you do specific things. In this tab we're in now, it's where you primarily edit together your video. You've got one for VFX, one for color grading. You've got the Fairlight tab for all of your audio work. You got the Deliver tab to export out your project. You also have a Media tab for going through and sorting out all your media, as well as a Cut tab, which is kind of like a simplified version of the Edit page. So if you don't know anything about Resolve, that's a quick overview. So let's jump into Fairlight, the musical notes at the bottom. Now we can do some of these things in the Edit tab, but it's just easier to do it here in Fairlight. So in Fairlight, we've got our levels set. We're good. I did zoom in and out of my timeline by holding Shift and rolling my middle mouse wheel there just to zoom in and out. If you need to do it using the on-screen commands, you can use these right here. Now, the first thing that I want to do once I get into DaVinci Resolve is to think about if I have any background noise that I need to take care of. And this is where that one feature is in the paid version of DaVinci Resolve. Quick note, if you don't know about DaVinci Resolve, it's a one-time price, $295 US. You get all of future updates. It's not like a subscription or anything like that, but this one tool is going to be in there. So that tool is called Voice Isolation. Now, if I have my mixer open, if you don't see your mixer, you can click on this right here. You're going to see it right here under Track Effects. You've got Voice Isolation. And what this does is just gets rid of any background noise behind your speaking dialogue. It'll remove music. It'll remove pretty much anything from your dialogue, and you'll just hear the dialogue coming through nice and clear. It's a great tool if you need to get rid of background noise behind a voice or some dialogue. Can't recommend it enough. If you don't have studio and you need that feature, you definitely have to do it. Now, in this case, I don't have too much background noise because I set up this microphone properly. Check out my other video that I made a while back about how to set this thing up properly. But my gain knob back here is really low because if it's not, this microphone picks up everything, right? If you have this, you know what I'm talking about. So I've got that set up properly, so I didn't pick up too much extra background noise. But just to see what we might have, if I just play in the section here in between where I'm talking, let's see if we hear anything. I don't even hear anything because I set it up good to start with. Now, you may have some background noise. If you've got the voice isolation, all you got to do is turn it on, click on this little icon to pop out the menu, and all it is one dial. So you start at 0, and I would just gradually ease it up until it gets rid of that background noise for you. Does a phenomenal job. I can't recommend it enough. But if you've got the background noise, that's what you're going to want to use. I'm going to show you another technique to help not remove, but quiet down that background noise a little bit, and that is in the free version, so we'll get to that in a few minutes. So for now, I'm just going to turn off the voice isolation because in this case, I don't really need it. And if you have the free version, you're not going to have it anyway. Another quick note, the dialogue leveler right below that, you can use that if you want. And if I turn it on and open it up, it's just going to automatically set the levels for you. And this can work out fine. Now, we don't need this because we set them manually and made our levels, what we wanted them to be. But you can use this. It does work good. And, it's pretty quick and easy, too, to just turn on any given track. So the next thing I think about is what order do I want to process this audio in? So we've set our levels, which is always the first step, right? Other than syncing up your audio. Next, I like to do EQ, then dynamics, then effects. And we can tell DaVinci Resolve, or whatever program you're in, that you want to use that order. So right here, we've got order. Going to select my little drop down. We're going to go EQ, dynamics, and effects. So let's go ahead and open up the EQ. I'm actually going to close the inspector here because it's kind of in the way. Open up our EQ. And we're going to use the EQ to remove anything that sounds harsh. Now, my recording is pretty good, and what's really nice with this microphone is that it does a great job off the bat. Whether you have this one, maybe you've got a newer version of it. This one's pretty old. I think I got it for like $80 a bunch of years ago. It does a real good job of getting audio good from the start, right? So a lot of the changes we're going to make are going to be subtle, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to make a good difference for us. So EQ, if you don't know how to work with EQ, you're essentially going to select a point, bring it up, find something that sounds harsh to your ear, and then remove that frequency. Now, it does make a difference depending on the kind of headphones you have or speakers you have. That makes a difference, so keep that in mind. But anywhere where you hear something harsh, you want to remove or cut some of that frequency. In general, you always want to cut your frequencies and not boost them. There may be times you want to boost them, but in general, you want to cut those frequencies. So I'm not going to go and explain everything here. Let me play through my clip. I'm going to make some changes and then give you an overview of what I did, but I'm not going to explain all the knobs, buttons, and dials here because I don't know if you want to hear that. I do have videos on it, but let's just go ahead and EQ our dialogue here.
So you should have your microphone set up. You should be recording good audio right from this microphone. And if you're not sure how to get all that set up, definitely head over and check out the previous video I did a few years back about getting this thing set up to record the best audio you can. I'll link it above here. I'll link it down below. You can check that out. But once you've got it in your computer, you can record it in any number of different ways. Maybe you want to use, OBS. Maybe you want to use some other program of your choice. In my case, I'm using DaVinci Resolve, and I'm going to show you how to edit this audio in DaVinci Resolve, but you can apply these concepts and these principles.
Let me show you a little before and after here. Now, it may be subtle, but just listen and see if you can hear the difference.
Set up. Definitely head over and check out the previous video I did a few years back about getting this thing set up to record.
All right, so it kind of cleans it up a little bit. It did remove a little bit of like the fullness of the sound. That's okay. We're going to bring that back later on with an effect. But what I did was I added a high pass filter right here with band 1, because everything down in the lower end of the frequencies here, we don't need for speaking and for dialogue. Then I took 3 points and I kind of swept them around and found some things that sounded harsh to me. And I just made a slight cut, about 5 dB or so in those particular areas. Now, you may not need to use all of your points. That's fine. Just use the ones where there's harsh frequencies, right? And then on the top end, I got rid of some of those higher end frequencies that I really don't need. I might actually bring it back up a little bit. If you're singing into this microphone, then maybe you want to keep those high end frequencies. But if you're just speaking, you don't need them. You may get extra static that may creep in there or some kind of extra high frequency sound that you don't want. So you can make a little cut there and you should be good. So now I kind of cleaned it up a little bit. And now we're going to move on with further processing our dialogue. So I'm going to go ahead and close out our EQ. There's a lot more to EQ. I do have videos on that, like I said, if you want to know more about it and how it works, knobs, buttons, dials, frequencies, all that stuff. But in general, you can just do this without even knowing too much and just use your ears and you get a pretty good result. The next thing I want to work with are some dynamics. Now, dynamics take our audio from having loud highs and quiet lows, and there being a big difference between them, like we saw in our meters, and bringing them a little bit closer together so that whoever's watching doesn't have to use their remote control and boost up the sound and then lower the sound. You don't want to have to do that. You want it to be consistent throughout your video to give your viewer a good listening experience. And we're going to use some dynamics to do that. In Resolve, in my mixer, we've got dynamics. Double click that to open it up. Now we're going to be working with the compressor and then the expander here, but we're going to start with the compressor. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. Now the compressor is going to make sure our loud parts don't get too loud and even bring them down just a little bit. Once we set our compressor where we like it, we're going to come into the makeup slider right here, which is going to take our quiet parts and make them a little bit louder. And what we're doing is reducing our dynamic range of our audio. And it's just going to make it nicer for our viewer to watch and listen to. So when it comes to the compressor here, main things you need to know, threshold and ratio. Ratio, you want to go 2:1 to 3:1. And threshold, you're just going to dial this around until you're getting the amount of reduction or compression that you're looking for. Now, compression is going to be shown on this middle graph right here. And in general, we don't want to go more than -6 dB, because if you do, it might start to sound a little weird. So let's just start with our just default settings here, play through the clip, and I'll explain what I did.
The best audio you can. I'll link it above here. I'll link it down below. You can check that out. But once you've got it in your computer, you can record it in any number of different ways. Maybe you want to use, OBS. Maybe you want to use some other program of your choice. In my case, I'm using DaVinci Resolve. And
all right, I think that sounded pretty good. It's a little more consistent around that -10 dB. And I'm happy with that, right? So I applied the compressor. I set it to start at about -22 dB. Now remember, we're aiming for -10 dB for our dialogue. I changed the ratio 2.6 to 1. The knee just says, hey, just gradually ease into that compressor a little bit. You can use that, but you don't have to. So I use that a little bit. And then my makeup slider, I pushed it up about 6.5 dB so that on my output meter, I'm back up around that minus 10 dB. Now, when it comes to noise that's in between a speaking, or maybe there's a little bit of background noise and you don't have Studio, you've got the free version of Resolve here, or you've got any other program, you can use what's called an expander or a gate. In this case, we're going to use the expander. So I'm going to turn it on, and what it's going to do is once our dialogue or our audio in our clip gets below a certain threshold, in this case, minus 35 dB, it's going to make it quieter quicker. So a gate is going to chop it off a little bit faster, and it's going to say, hey, until it gets to a certain level, the gate's closed. Once it gets to that certain level, okay, go ahead, go through the gate. But an expander just kind of reduces the volume of these quieter sounds a little bit quicker. And you can change your ratio to drop it down even faster. So I'm going to just dial this back up a little bit. And I don't like to crank on this too much, just a little bit. I'm just going to drop it down, so it's just a little below 0 dB. You can see our slope here. Going to drop it off a little bit quicker. And you're going to notice it's working because you're going to see it lit up in this first meter right here. So if I just play through this part of the clip, you see it's active. And then when I speak, it goes off.
Okay.
So you saw the compressor become active and then the expander turn off. So this is going to help with some of that background noise in between your words and phrases. And when you're talking, does a good job. I use it pretty much all the time. So that's all we need to do for dynamics. And you can even come in here and there's some presets you could try. If you want to just put on a preset, give it a try, that might work out good for you as well. The last thing I like to do is apply a few effects onto our track here. The effects I like to use are a multi-band compressor, which you would find in pretty much any audio editing program. It's in the free version of Resolve here, and this is going to help bring back some of the fullness and the body to our dialogue. And then the other thing I like to use is a DeEsser. So let's add in the multi-band compressor first. I want to come to Effects, click on the little plus. We're going to come down to Dynamics, Fairlight Effects, and Multi-Band Compressor. Now, in the multi-band compressor, it basically gives us 4 bands where we can add compression to those specific frequency ranges. So I'm not going to go over all the knobs, buttons, and dials, but let me play through it, make some changes, and then explain to you what I did.
So you should have your microphone set up. You should be recording good audio right from this microphone. And if you're not sure how to get all that set up, definitely head over and check out the previous video I did a few years back about getting this thing set up to record the best audio you can. I'll link it above here. I'll link it down below. You can check that out. But once you've got it in your computer, you can record it in any number of different ways. Maybe you want to use, OBS. Maybe you want to use some other program of your choice. In my case, I'm using DaVinci Resolve, and I'm going to show you how to edit this audio in DaVinci Resolve.
Okay, so I made a few changes. I changed the ranges of my frequencies from my lows up to about 120 hertz, which most of that is getting cut out by the EQ anyway. Then from about 120 to almost 700 hertz or so, I'm actually boosting it up. And that's going to bring back some of the fullness and the lower end bassy sound to the dialogue, right? Because we kind of removed out some harsh frequencies, which pulled out some of that fullness to the dialogue, right? So this is going to bring that back. Then in the, 650, 700 to 38, 3500 range is a good chunk of where the dialogue lives. Now, I bring that down a little bit because if that's too high, it can sound a little too boxy, kind of like this.
You can apply these concepts and these principles in any audio editing program. It doesn't have to be in DaVinci Resolve. Although I'd highly recommend you go get the free version of DaVinci Resolve.
So you can adjust that however you'd like. But in this case, I think a little cut is pretty good, and it's adding a little more compression to that range. And then on the top end, that's where the clarity is for the dialogue. I boosted that up a little bit just to get a little bit more clarity out of the dialogue. So let's do a quick before and after here. Here's before, and then I'll turn it on. You'll hear the after.
How to get all that set up, definitely head over and check out the previous video I did a few years back about getting this thing set.
So I think that's pretty good. The last thing I did as the audio comes out of this effect is I boosted the gain a little bit. As we're using effects and working with our audio, you constantly have to check your levels and make sure you're hitting around that minus 10 dB. Because as you apply things on your audio, you edit it, you work with it, it loses a little bit of its volume or levels. So in this case, I boosted 1.2 dB just to get back up around that minus 10 dB. And we're pretty consistent about hovering around that point at this time. So I think we're good on that. The next thing I want to do is add in that DeEsser. I'm going to come to my effects, click on the plus, come down to Restoration, Fairlight Effects, and DeEsser. Now this is just going to get rid of some of the harsh S frequency sounds. I like to just start with the preset, male ESS for me. And then the changes I like to make are select this for the range. It's just going to narrow out the frequencies that get selected. And I like to dial this back a little because I don't want to do too much. So I'm just going to play through my clip, watch the reduction here, make sure it's doing something, and I think we should be good to go.
Up to record the best audio you can. I'll link it above here. I'll link it down below. You can check that out.
Now, if you need to make an adjustment, you can grab this and just move it back and forth a little bit, and you should be able to find those harsh S frequencies for your voice, your setup, and it's just going to help make the audio a little bit better for your viewers. So that is it. Those are the steps that you would want to take with your dialogue. Let me show you a complete before and complete after. So I'm just going to copy this down into a new track here real quick. Copy it down. I'm going to reset my levels here, and I have no effects or anything applied on this track. So here is the before.
So you should have your microphone set up. You should be recording good audio right from this microphone. And if you're not sure how to get all that set up, definitely head over and check out the previous video I did.
And here is the after.
So you should have your microphone set up. You should be recording good audio right from this microphone. And if you're not sure how to get all that set up, definitely head over and check out the previous video I did.
So I think it sounds a whole lot better. Our levels are much more consistent, almost steady at that minus 10 dB. We've gone through, we've taken care of any kind of problem areas. Now keep in mind, sometimes the changes are very subtle. Your environment, your voice, your settings on your microphone are all going to dictate how much work you need to do to that audio. I had a pretty good setup here to start. I'm in a pretty quiet place. It all worked out pretty good so that I could just make some fine-tune changes, and I've got some awesome audio. You may need to do a little bit more work to your clips, but these are the processes, the things you want to do to your audio to really take it to the next level and make it awesome. Now, if you have the Blue Yeti, if you've got a newer one than this, it probably does a better job. I should make a quick note that Logitech has that software that you can use when you're recording that has some like preset stuff in it. That does work good too. But I think it's good to know how to work with your audio because you're going to come across problems and issues that you're going to need to know how to fix. And if you want to learn end-to-end on how to work with your audio, I do have a course all about audio, teaching you everything from A to Z. It's called Audio Essentials for Video Editors in DaVinci Resolve here. It'll help take your audio to the next level, explain everything, the knobs, buttons, and dials, how everything works, gives you a sample, a documentary to work on. So if you're looking to learn more about audio, you can check that out. I'll leave a link in the description down below. So with that said, what kind of questions do you have? Is your microphone set up good? If not, check out that video I did a few years back. That's going to get you all set up. You have questions, comment down below. I'm happy to help you out, answer any kind of questions you have on the Blue Yeti here, or any other microphone for that matter. I love audio stuff. I'm an audio guru, nerd guy, and DaVinci Resolve is my playground. So if you guys have questions about Resolve or any other audio stuff, feel free to leave a comment down below. With that said, I'm out of here. Best of luck with your audio. Hope it turns out awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. For the second time there, that was the second time I recorded this, you know, because I did the whole video once, and it didn't record the computer audio, which doesn't work out good. But you know what? That's kind of how it goes sometimes, right? It's a story of being a YouTuber. Sometimes I forget to hit record. Sometimes it doesn't record on the computer. Sometimes we got some problems. But yeah, so anyway. All right, I'm gonna go off and edit this video and hopefully help a lot of people. So see you in the next one. Bye.